I heard my own laugh from the attic. It wasn't funny. It was me. Same broken snort at the end. Same breath. I froze in the hallway. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that has a texture. Old wood. Low air. My phone buzzed with some spam number. I let it go. I stared up at the square hatch above the hall. The pull string dangled a little. My throat felt dry. "Hello?" I said, like an idiot. Something shifted above. Not footsteps. A paper noise. Then nothing. I moved to the kitchen and turned every light on as I went. Light switch, click. Next room, click. I wasn't thinking big thoughts. Just lights. I checked the back door. Locked. Front door. Locked. I stood at the sink and ran the water. I stared at my reflection in the window. My face looked pale. I tried to laugh on purpose, to get it out of my system. I gave this short, "Ha!" My own voice answered right away from above. Same note. Same throat. I dropped the glass and swore. It bounced in the sink and didn't break. I put both hands on the counter until my arms stopped shaking. I live alone. I had moved back into this house after my dad died last fall. Papers were a mess. I got the house. It had been our place when I was a kid. Then, we rented it out. I didn't tell anyone I was scared of the attic. I told myself it was rats, or a loose vent, or my head. I pulled the folding ladder out of the coat closet and clicked it open under the hatch. My phone's flashlight shook in my hand. The ladder always creaked on that third rung. It still does. I climbed, pushed the hatch up with the side of my head, and poked the phone beam into the dark. The attic was the same as always. Low roof. Fiberglass insulation. Boxes with labels in my dad's block letters. 2 tubs of holiday junk. An old box fan. Dust hung in air like lint in a sunbeam. No raccoons. No prankster roommate. There was a smell. Old glue and cardboard. And the faint sour of attic air. I set the hatch down and came back down. I felt stupid. It had felt like me standing on the other side of the hatch. I made a plan like you do when you don't want to feel crazy. I got out a bag of flour and shook a ring of it on the floor around the hatch. A thin circle. I put some on the first few rungs too. My socks left marks. I pounded the flour bag on the counter to fluff it. I wiped my hands on a towel. I pulled the little baby monitor from a box of random cables. It was from when my sister visited with her kid last month. I set the base on the hallway table under the hatch and put the camera up through the hatch just inside. It clamped to a beam. The screen crackled with white fuzz until I angled it right. Now I had grainy gray insulation and the edge of a dusty beam on the screen. "I'm not scared," I said out loud, and that sounded like a lie. It was almost midnight by then. I don't sleep easy anyway. My head never shuts up. I made coffee even though I shouldn't have. I texted my friend Nate. "You up?" Weird thing. He wrote back right away, which scared me for a different reason. Always. "What's up?" I called him. "Don't laugh," I said, and when I said laugh, my voice tickled my throat. He said, "Okay, already not liking this." I told him the attic thing. Told him it sounded like me. He asked if anyone had a spare key. I said no. He asked if I was drinking. I said 1 coffee. He sighed into the phone. "Dude, put me on speaker. Stand under it," he said. So I did. I stood in the hall. The baby monitor screen glowed. I could hear a soft shh hiss from it. Nate talked in my ear. "Okay, Say something you wouldn't normally say. I said, I love math. No sound came from above. He snorted. Okay. Now laugh, he said. I forced a small laugh. The attic answered me with the exact same sound, but the timing was off by just a hair. Like an echo from inside your head. Nate went quiet on the line. Tell me you heard that, I said. That was you, he said. It wasn't me. It was you, he said again, but softer. We stayed on the phone a while. He listened while I moved room to room and checked windows. He kept saying practical things. Check the shed. Call the non-emergency line. Do not go up there at night. I stayed in the living room with all the lights on and let the TV play on mute. The baby monitor hissed and ticked with little bursts. That monitor hiss grabs your ears, like you want to hear something in it. At around 2, I dozed on the couch with my shoes on. Nothing else happened that night. Morning, I checked the flour. There were 2 prints in the powder by the hatch. Not shoe prints. Bare feet. You could see the toes if you looked. They matched my foot when I put my heel next to it. Same width. Same bunion on the right toe. I blinked a few times. My stomach went cold. I took pictures. They didn't look like much. Blurry, because I was shaking. I knelt and touched one print. The powder smudged. It was just flour. But it had edges, like something real had stepped down. I checked the camera footage from the baby monitor. It recorded all night. It stored clips. Every time I pressed play, the little spinner went and then the clip jumped to the end. Static. An error message. One clip played. It showed the empty, dusty beam. It had time-stamped 1:12 a.m. At 1:12, a laugh came through the speaker. My laugh. You couldn't see anything. The clip ran 4 seconds and stopped. I kept telling myself I would find a logical thing. A neighbor kid with a weird joke. A stupid Bluetooth prank. Wiring noise. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I had always hated this attic and I was working myself up. I didn't call the police. What would I say? My own laugh is squatting in my roof? That second night I planned more. I sprinkled more flour. I dragged the kitchen table under the hatch and stacked 2 chairs on it so I could reach in fast, like I could catch a hand or a foot. Stupid, but it made me feel in control. I dragged my old camcorder out of a drawer. It's the kind that uses those tiny tapes. I found one half filled from some old vacation. I charged the battery. The little red light still worked. I set it on a shelf pointed up at the hatch and wrote the time on a sticky note and stuck it to the lens. I even drew chalk lines where the flower ring was, so I could see if it got disturbed. Nate came over around 10. He didn't like the house. He never had. He stood inside the door and rubbed his hands on his jeans. "Let me see the prints," he said. I showed him. He crouched and put his fingers down in one. He sniffed his finger like an idiot. "Flour," he said. "Yeah," I said. "You heard it last night." "I heard you," he said. "You know my laugh," I said. He looked at me. "Yeah." We stayed up playing cards at the kitchen table with the door open to the hall. We could see the monitor screen from the kitchen. He kept glancing at it. Around midnight, he told a story about a guy at work that fell off a scaffold. He said the guy yelled on the way down. The attic laughed then. Both of us stopped breathing. It wasn't loud. It came out of the ceiling, soft and quick, and then the monitor crackled like a mouth on a speaker. "Okay," he whispered. "No." I stood. I wanted to laugh to see if it would match, but I didn't. I didn't want to feed it. I turned the camcorder on. The red light glowed. I said the date and the time out loud into my phone and into the camcorder like I was making a science video. The laugh came again. It hit the end of a word I was saying and matched the last breath of it, like it was practicing my timing. Nate left around 1. He hugged me in the doorway and said, "Call me if anything actually happens." After he left, I couldn't sit. I walked a loop through the rooms. Kitchen, hall, living room, back to kitchen. The house creaked like houses do, but each creak felt aimed. I've never loved this house. I grew up here. I made it nice in that default way. A rug. A wrong couch. I didn't hang many pictures. I never go in the attic. I didn't think about why. At 3, I finally lay on the couch. I left the baby monitor on my chest. The hiss was like being at the beach. I fell asleep and woke up at the sound of myself laughing, happy and mean at the same time. My mouth was closed. It wasn't from my chest. It was above, and it played over the monitor a half second before it hit the air. The timing went monitor, ceiling, me flinching. I sat up fast. The monitor screen cut to black and then came back. I hit the camcorder rewind button. It whined. When I hit play, it taped over itself. The moment I hit play, the light flickered and the tape went back to 0. I don't know how. The tape had my dad's birthday on it from 2003. That was gone. I sat for a long time with the silent camcorder in my hand. I set it down too hard and it clattered on the table. I whispered sorry to the air. I don't know who to. In the morning, there were more prints in the flour. They walked from the hatch toward the hall mirror. They turned there and vanished at the trim like whatever it was had stepped sideways into the wall. I held my foot over one. I didn't put my weight down. It lined up. I cleaned the flour with a dustpan and dumped it in the trash. The bag was heavy and real. I was angry suddenly. Like, how dare it? I went to work and did nothing. I sat and clicked the same open email back and forth. People asked if I was okay. I said, just didn't sleep. On the drive home, I told myself I was going to take the camera down and throw out the monitor and pretend I hadn't heard anything. If you change one thing, it breaks the spell. I didn't take them down. I found a box in the attic when I climbed up in the afternoon. The light up there was yellow and flat. I crawled across the plywood and knocked my shin on a beam. The box was marked tapes in black marker, not camcorder ones. VHS. The kind we watched growing up. I lifted the top and dust rose. There were labels. Christmas, 97. Easter, backyard. One said April, no year. I hauled the box down. I still had a VCR because I never throw crap away. I hooked it up to the TV and blew in the slot. I put in April. Clean white letters on the leader. April. The picture came up low and wobbling. The camera was pointed at the backyard. I heard my dad yelling at us to wave. My sister, Beth, little pigtails, waved at the lens, running in circles. My younger brother, Mikey, climbed the birdbath and made faces. I was taller, too cool, trying not to look at the camera. We took turns with a kite. The line broke. We chased it. It was normal. Then the angle changed. The camera was in the back hall. It pointed at the bottom of the attic ladder. The hatch was down and the ladder was unfolded. Someone laughed right before the picture jittered. I knew the laugh. It was me. Child me, high and sharp, that stupid snort at the end. The timing was the same. The adult me in the room looked around like someone had tapped me. The tape cut to static and cut back to a different room. The screen jump made me sick. I rewound to that part and paused. You could hear the laugh while the ladder filled the frame, the same laugh that had kept me up. It had no echo. It was right on the mic. The camera mic used to hiss. This laughed through the hiss. I stopped the tape and sat on the floor. I held the remote to my chest. I didn't want to keep watching. I knew what came after that day. I'd built whole walls in my head around it. I hadn't heard that laugh in years. I could taste metal. I got up and made toast I didn't want. I ate it standing at the counter with my forearms on the laminate. In April back then, there had been an accident. People said accident like a thing that falls out of the sky, like a bird dropping. Mikey was 6. I was 12. We were not supposed to climb up there. The ladder was rickety. He loved being where he wasn't supposed to. He'd hide in the attic and whisper down. He'd think I couldn't find him. He'd stick his hand through the hatch and wiggle his fingers. He had this little gambler grin. I didn't want to think about it. I took the tape out. I put it back in the box. I slid the box under the couch like a dog hiding a bone. My chest hurt. That night the laugh didn't wait. It started when the streetlights came on. I could hear it in the empty rooms if I moved around. It wasn't loud. It was always my volume. It matched my breath. If I thought about my grocery list, it laughed when I thought of apples, because I always hated apples. If I remembered a dumb story, it laughed on the part where I imagined the look on someone's face. I tried not to think, and it laughed at the effort, that little snort. I carried the baby monitor around with me like a security blanket. It crackled and clicked. Sometimes it popped and I would jump. At 10, I called Nate again. "I can stay," he said. "I'm okay," I lied. "When you say okay, I can hear your jaw click," he said. We stayed on the phone anyway. He talked about other things, trying to keep me distracted. He mentioned my dad's funeral. He asked if I remembered how I held it together. The laugh came through the monitor before he finished the sentence. He heard it. He stopped mid-word. "Dude," he said. "I have to tell you something," I said, and I felt the attic gather itself above me like a mouth inhaling. "Okay," he said. "It's fine. I'll tell you later," I said. The laugh doubled. It came from above and behind my ear. I stood up fast and knocked my knee into the coffee table. My knee went numb. I walked into the hall and looked up at the hatch, like I could glare it into being sorry. The next morning, I put the bag by the door like I was ready to leave on a trip. I grabbed what I could. Laptop, toothbrush, one change of clothes. I filled a thermos. I locked the house twice. I clicked each lock twice. I sat in my car and decided to sleep there, out front. I told myself that was moving out for the night. The seat didn't go back far enough, so I curled on my side and pulled a hoodie over my face. The house was a dark rectangle in the windshield. The upstairs window looked like an eye. Every time a car went by, the inside of the car flashed bright, then dark, bright, then dark. At 2 in the morning, a laugh came from my passenger seat. Our old baby monitor had no range like that. The bass wasn't in the car. It didn't matter. The laugh had my mouth shape. I said, "Stop," into the hoodie. It laughed once more like a hiccup and then went quiet. I drove to Nate's. He opened the door without a shirt on, hair smashed. He let me in without a word. I slept on his couch. In the morning, we did that thing where we act like nothing happened. He made eggs. We ate them from paper towels instead of plates. He said, "You can stay as long as you want." I lied and told him I was fine. I lied and told him it wasn't as bad as it sounded. I lied and told him I didn't remember much about when we were kids anyway. The laugh came from his hallway. He heard it. He dropped his fork and it clanged. "Don't," I said. "Man," he said. He looked at me like I'd brought a sick dog and put it on his carpet. "Sorry," I said. I went home before he could tell me to. I couldn't blame him. That afternoon, I dragged everything up into the attic. Not furniture, just gear. The camcorder, the old VHS camera from a box, 2 phones propped in cups. I set them at different angles, pointing at the hatch and the inside. I ran an extension cord. I brought a lamp. I brought flour and poured a thick stripe across the top of the ladder. I chalked my hand and pressed it on the hatch so it would take a print if it moved. I put a notebook up there and wrote goals like a dumb list. Get it on tape. Ask it questions. Stay calm. I also wrote, tell the truth. I crossed it out. I left it crossed out. I stood with the hatch open and stared at the black of the attic. My skin felt like someone had slid cold paper under it. The laugh then was soft, almost sad. It echoed from the back beam and from my teeth. "Okay," I said to the emptiness. "Okay, you win." I set all the cameras to record. The red lights blinked on in their little die-hard way. The baby monitor screen showed the lamp glow. I put one phone on live video to Nate, but I didn't tell him what I was doing. I just sent the link and typed, "Watch if you want." He didn't respond. I climbed up. My palms were wet. The third rung creaked. My body remembered the feel of it from before. I swung my leg up and knelt on the plywood sheet we had laid up there when I was little. It still had crayon marks on it. Little suns and a stick figure with big hair. Mine. The attic air pressed on my face. It had my breath smell. I sat cross-legged and put the cameras around me like little animals. I faced the open hatch. The lamp made the dust look like snow. "I know what you're doing," I said, and my own voice came back up from below. The laugh bobbed in the middle of my sentence like a buoy. I didn't break eye contact with the hatch. I looked at where his head would have been if a 6-year-old was standing on the ladder, cheeks flushed from climbing, eyes looking up like he was being sneaky. I said, I laughed. It got quiet. The monitor hissed. One of the cameras clicked as it adjusted focus. I thought about stopping. I didn't. That day, April, you were showing off. You were doing this thing where you bounced the ladder. You made that face you made, and it made me laugh. It wasn't funny. I laughed anyway. I thought the way you said my name was funny. I didn't hold the ladder. I didn't tell you to stop. I laughed at you. I stared at the chalk handprint on the hatch. It was white and small and mine from now. You fell because you were 6, I said. Not because you were bad. Not because I was tough. Not because you were dumb. Because you were 6 and I laughed and I didn't grab you. You fell. Your chin hit the rung and your head hit the floor. My mouth tasted like pennies. I swallowed. I kept my hands on my knees. I told everyone it was different. I moved the ladder. I dragged the rug to cover the spot. I told Dad you'd been playing in the hall. I said you slipped running. I said I didn't see. I said a lot. I kept saying things. I said it so long I started to think it was true. I said I couldn't hear anything from up there. That's not true, is it? I heard everything. I heard the crack. I heard Mom. I heard Dad swearing. I heard you not laughing. I looked at the cameras. Their red lights blinked slow and patient. I laughed. I said again. The words were small. That's what you wanted, right? Me to say it out loud. Me to stop lying when people ask why I don't talk about it. Me to stop making my voice into a dead thing. I could feel the house listening. The roof beams felt like ribs. The lamp hum grew loud and steady. "I'm sorry," I said. It felt late and thin. I am so sorry I laughed and I didn't hold the ladder. I am sorry I made it worse after. I was 12 and I was a coward, and then I turned it into a story where I was brave and sad. That's not what happened." I laughed. The attic didn't laugh back. It made a noise like someone breathing out through their nose. The baby monitor, pop, 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 became a soft, steady hiss. The phone I had set to live sent me a buzz. "Nate, I'm watching." "It was here," I said to him, to the cameras, to whoever had been below, to the plywood with crayon suns. "Right here. I'm not going to say it was anyone else." I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. 2. The lamp buzzed. The night pressed at the edges of the light. Then a laugh came. But it wasn't the laugh that had chased me. It was me as a kid. Not mocking. It sounded like when he used to hide and surprise me. That soft, excited giggle before he couldn't hold it in. It said my name, my old nickname, in my voice. "Peaches," it said. Stupid, from when I used to eat peaches off the tree and get sticky. Nobody called me that but him. He hadn't said it since before, since that day, since everything stopped. The baby monitor crackle eased to a long sigh. The camera stayed on. I held my breath until it hurt and then let it go. The house felt empty the way a jar feels empty after the lid's off. I waited for a trick, for a sting. Nothing. The quiet felt like the power had gone out and the whole street was listening. I sat a long time there with the flower stripe unbroken under my knees and the stupid chalk print on the hatch. When I climbed down, the third rung creaked. My foot left a print in the flower where I had put it myself. My shoulders felt light and sore. I left everything on. I didn't clean up. I slept on the hallway floor right under the hatch with the monitor by my ear and woke up late to sun through the blinds and birds. The alarm on my phone had gone off at some point and stopped by itself. It didn't laugh again. Not that night. Not the next. The monitor hissed like radios hiss. The tapes I took from the box showed what they showed. Kite. Backyard. Beth with cake. The clip by the ladder was there, and I could hear the old laugh. But it didn't follow me around the house anymore. I listened to it once. Then I put the tape back. Nate came over 2 days later and stood in the hall and looked up. He said, "Did you fix it?" I said it out loud, I said. He nodded. He touched the chalk handprint. It smudged a little. "I remember," he said. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "I told you I didn't," I said. "Okay," he said, and then we didn't fill the quiet with anything. We drank coffee at my kitchen table in the middle of the day like we were playing house. I still sleep weird. I still hear the house move. Sometimes at night I think about that laugh and I get the shape of it in my mouth and I push my tongue down so I don't make any sound. The baby monitor sits on a shelf with the cord wrapped around it, off. The cameras are stacked in a drawer. The flour is back in the pantry. The hatch is still there. The third rung still creaks. I don't go up at night. I don't avoid it like a hole in the ground anymore. I stand under it sometimes and look up and say a thing out loud, and the only thing that answers me is the regular old hit and echo of my own voice in an empty house. Ian? I hope you liked this one, and if you did, prove it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you come back for more. It takes a second, and it really keeps this channel breathing. There's another story waiting. You should probably watch it before the lights flicker again. See you in the next one.